page. Before we commence proceedings, I'd just like to advise anyone in the gallery consents to having their face or voice being live broadcast under the city's live broadcasting policy. Could I now call upon Deputy Mayor to do Welcome to Country?
Thank you, Worship. I'll begin by acknowledging my elders past and present. Ngalat nyini kur ngala noich neji nonga boja, nonga mo jerp and neji na kwabarak nonga boja korlong. From the beginning of time to the end, this is Noongar country. Noongar people have been graceful keepers of our nation for many, many years. Jinin Karajan jerp and neji weren't nonga boja ngala maya border. We ask that you look, listen, understand, and embrace all the elements of Noongar country. This is forever our home. Kaiwan Jungan ko jerp and neji nonga boja darjli wangin nonga boja. Hello and welcome. My heart is happy as we gathered here on Noongar country this evening. Welcome.
It gives me great pleasure to welcome you here, and before commencing the proceedings, I would also like to acknowledge that we come together tonight on the traditional lands of the Noongar people and pay my respects to elders past and present. Could I ask Councillor Sargent to read the dedication?
Thank you, Mayor Feasey. May we, the elected members of the City of Kwinana, have the wisdom to consider all matters before us with due consideration, integrity and respect for the Council Chamber. May the decisions made be in good faith and always in the best interest of the greater Kwinana community that we serve.
Attendance, apologies, leave of absence previously approved. Councillor Penny is a late absence. Councillor Acker is an absence, and Councillor Rouse is a leave of absence. Can also acknowledge that the CEO is also a leave of absence, and Mr. Elkins is acting CEO. And can I also welcome our new director, Fiona Greaves, the Director of City Life, replacing the former director after Vegetarian Lasagna Gate. Do council have any petitions? Oh, sorry, I missed public question time. There is nil. We have not received any questions. Petitions. Do councillors have any petitions to present? Presentations. We do have one deputation from Mr. Evan Duxbury, who is unable to attend, but Mr. Elkins is going to read the submission the deputation in his absence.
Okay, so deputation from Mr. Evan Duxbury regarding item 17.2, Amendment 164. We reside at 15, Lot 131, Harts Way, Wandie. Our primary boundary of approximately 36 metres is shared with the proposed development of the allotments running along Lion Road and cornering to Morwell entrance. Additionally, we are also impacted by the proposed new allotment directly to the front of our property, which is proposed to run along the small access way to our residence, Brick Laneway. This would result in a 1800 high ColourBond fence running down this small access road, hence surrounding our residents with ColourBond as our neighbours. When we engaged with the developer/sales team in 2021 to look at the blocks within Stage 5A, we were informed the land directly to the front of Lot 131 and Lot 130 is to be revegetated either as a small landscaped area or a small park area. We have evidence of this, however, to keep this statement short, can provide that if need be. Our neighbours, who have just built the 2-storey, 3 allotments up, can also verify this, as they were also informed upon purchasing their land that this area would be landscaped and not residential housing. For context, my wife has a heart condition and at some point over the next 12 months will require major surgery. In the past week alone, we have had 2 emergency trips to Fiona Stanley with cardiac issues. It is very important to us as impacted residents that this accessway is clear and any decisions made in the future do not unwittingly create further parking or obstruction issues as we have seen in our first 12 months of residing at 15 Harts Way. The City of Kwinana Rangers can verify the number of calls we alone have made regarding the ongoing traffic and parking concerns due to the design of Stage 5A and Harts Way. As impacted residents, we welcome larger blocks zones accordingly, R10, to retain larger blocks along Lion Road. We do not support any proposal for the small access road servicing our residents to be shared with any future allotments, as this will only exacerbate what is already going to be an ongoing issue. To date, we have had visitors to residences on Harts Way using the small access road and its turning circle area as parking. This is due to Harts Way having no on-street parking available and the nature of the tight bend and middle island, which already has been damaged multiple times due to the awkward design. There have been many occasions to date whereby we have not been able to leave our access to our property due to cars blocking this access road. We have many photos if required. This issue is even without the Nido Childcare Centre being up and running, noting that Nido car park is more than 50% full just with the staff parking there. We are really hoping once this centre is up and running, parents do not park on the access road or turning circle. This ongoing issue is also without the 2 new builds being completed on the access road and these families moving in. The ongoing issue is also without the proposed allotments along Harts Way, whereby the developer informed buyers the area would be revegetated and not residential allotments. Once all of these causal factors align, there is no doubt there is going to be considerable issues on Harts Way. And unfortunately, as the impacted residents of 15 Harts Way, we are going to really feel this. Fiona and I are asking for the council to please acknowledge these concerns and please ensure any decisions made factor these concerns. Any decisions to ensure your resources are not required daily/weekly to police parking would be highly welcomed. Our proposal is to retain a section, as advised by the developer, immediately along the Harts Way access road as revegetated landscaping. This will retain the design of Honeywood and avoid an eyesore of a small access road with Colorbond and impacted residents being blocked into what would look like a Colorbond prison with no greenery, no airflow, and will look terrible. As a minimum, we require an acceptable buffer between our residences and any future allotments as per any other residents when they stand to the front of their property, along with planted greenery/trees. This is why we settled in Honeywood, for the semi-rural feel, trees, parklands and wildlife. As residents in full view of the existing 3,000 square metres of bushland, we can also confirm the dead tree, as noted by the proponent, is a go-to point daily for the Carnabies. Any resident along Harts Way can verify this. We note this as City of Kwinana supports the Keep Carnabies Flying project, and this area of bushland holds them daily, as a number of other bird species, as we have direct view of this from our residents and can hear them. In summary, we object to any further use of the small access road to our residents, as this will exacerbate current issues, and we object to any immediate allotment to the front of our residents, as this will significantly impact us by walking out onto Colorbond, which is just not acceptable for us as residents. Our kids, we do not have a park or open space within 300 metres for our kids, as specified under the Honeywood Design Guidance by Sadlerly, and is not aligned to buffer zones to the front of residents, given our allotment was sold under the pretense of open space to the front. Thank you.
Thank you. Confirmation of minutes from the meeting held on the 28th of August. Council, have any questions? Is there any additional information? Someone like to move that way? Moved, Councillor Sargent, seconded Councillor Kearney. Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Council, have any declarations of interest or city officers? No. Request for leave of absence? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Request for leave from the 19th of October to the 3rd of November.
Anyone else? Would someone like to move that way? Moved, Councillor Sargent, seconded Councillor Wood. Put to the vote, all in favour? Against? Carried. Something on item 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 or 16. Item 17.1, amendment to the Wandie North Local Structure Plan. Is there any additional information? Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. Just listening to that deputation that's just come through, I've pulled up a map. Can we advise where this gentleman's street is on that map? Because I can see road names, but I can't see the Hertz one. Is that directly across from the greenery that currently exists, or...?
Through you, Your Worship, if I could refer you to Figure 6 on page 199 of the agenda, which is the indicative subdivision concept. You'll see in that Harts Way, not sure if that's the right one. It's not the right one.
Oh, okay, so it says that, would it be that it goes around the curve?
So Harts Way goes into a dead end, the cul-de-sac at the moment, and then goes across. This submission or deputation was made by 131 Harts Way, which is right on the edge of the current development area. The actual proposed area is the triangle at the top.
So their lot would actually be kind of almost like a battle axe, because there's a small laneway from the street. Is
Correct. Yeah, it's an unusual shape what they currently have. Would you like me to come and show you which one?
Is that, I can see 131, which is the, so when they're talking about the laneway, they're talking about that,
They're talking about that bit there, that access street.
okay.
That's part of Harts Way,
And-
but that's the access for 130 and,
the
131.
turning point.
And that's the turning. They would come in and out sometimes.
And so when they're discussing the childcare, is it,
Yeah, in there.
wow.
I can see why they're worried.
Sorry, can I have a follow-up question, please?
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. From that, what is the onus that if there is evidence that the developer has said something to residents when they are purchasing a household that then comes to make, like, I understand a supporting amendment, this has been rezoned to urban, but I'm thinking as a ratepayer, if I bought a house and I was told when I bought that house that that is going to be bush across the road, how, what is the recourse, or is us as a local government to try and protect the ratepayer going forwards?
I guess there's probably two answers to that question. The first answer is, who provided with that information? Was it the City of Kwinana that provided the information, or was it the sales agent? Sales agents provide information to people that buy properties that isn't necessarily the same position that the city is in. And a perfect example of that is when developers talk about a primary school site. There's going to be a primary school built in this new estate. Well, yeah, there's a primary school site, but the only point that a primary school will be built is when the state government decides to build one. So, but the developer will tell you that there is a primary school site to sell you the block.
Further to that, it really is, at the point in time that they would have purchased that block, it would have been factual. That information would have been factual because that area is part of the groundwater mound, as we had discussed at the briefing. It was not zoned for urban purposes. It was rural. So the MRS, through the state, have now rezoned it, have determined it as developable and part of the urban area. So therefore, as per 17.2 and 17.1 in today's agenda, we are aligning our local planning scheme to reflect the state's decision and then considering a structure plan for that development area. So at the time, they would have been providing the estate developer would have been providing factual information.
Any additional questions? Okay. I mean, I'm somewhat at a loss at. I mean, ultimately, if I'm correct, that the 3 lots that will face Lion Road are extra large lots, Mrs. Cook, similar to what there is further up the road. So in actual fact, the property, 15 Hearts Way, will be at the end of that cul-de-sac.
So the concept that they have proposed does not show the large lots. So the concept they've proposed doesn't actually reflect the 1,000 square metre lots that we would be looking to change.
Okay.
As per our recommendation. Our recommendation is that Lion Road should have 1,000 square metre lots to reflect what is north of that subdivision. And that's what we're proposing in our recommendation as part of 17.1, that those changes are reflected. So part of the recommendation,
So I guess
part 4 of the resolution recommendation is to modify the structure plan map to ensure that that land on the west side of Lion Road is coded R10, to ensure that it is subdivided into larger residential lots.
Yeah. So I'm looking at the what they have as figure 6, which I guess it kind of appears that those lots are already large. That's why
They're already larger, but they're not the
Not
1,000 square
okay.
metres, and it's not consistent across the frontage of the of Lion Road.
Okay. And so the deputation talks about the issues with parking in the street because of the size of the street. Is the street any smaller than a normal street?
The street would comply with our requirements under livable neighbourhoods. It is what it is. It is an unusual configuration because of their lot shape, and because they are at the end of that little cul-de-sac component. I think obviously traffic coming through Hearts Way may be going into that area. They're obviously concerned that if there are more lots coming off that little section, that there would be more of an impact. But at this point in time, that service lane only really services 3 lots at the most.
Yeah, well, technically 2.
Two.
Lot 131 and 130.
So I guess from what my understanding is that the deputation is really concerned about more lots needing that road to access and how that may impact their ability to get in and out of their lot.
Which I think is a fair question, but we're ultimately not dealing with the specifics at this meeting, are we?
No, that will be dealt with through subdivision. So the structure plan is setting the direction for the lot sizes, and that reconfiguration will need to occur should the WAPC approve it with our recommendations. Then that would come at a later stage where that detail will come through in the subdivision.
Okay. Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. The other thing, if we're looking at figure 6, where the city is recommending to keep the public open space component with the trees, where sort of would that be sitting? Because would that also impact this particular landowner's concerns? Because I see it as a very valid point, especially seeing that that commercial activity centre is going to become a daycare, and the traffic concerns, as we're all aware, I know it's under planning and the livability framework, but would that green open space, whereabouts would that sit?
So if I can refer you to the next subdivision concept plan, that's basically the next page, page 200, which shows you where that vegetation sits under that design at the moment. This is obviously the proponent's piece of work, and it shows you where they're proposing the different lots to be and how it relates to that vegetated area. So in the context of 131 Harts Way, we're talking probably 100 metres south of that particular site is where we're saying this, where we're recommending a public open space be created.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. The other thing where they also cited about the 300 metres to have a park which was within Honeywood, does that have anything to do with local government, or is that developers' stipulation when in the deputation where they mentioned that they don't have a park within a 300 metres?
Through you, Your Worship, that is a requirement, not as per the livable neighbourhoods where any subdivision should really have access to public open space of sorts. In this area, we have Honeywood playing fields to the south, which is an active recreation space. Yes, there's some more passive around it, but it's predominantly club-based, active, kick the ball around space. Then there's some more restricted open space, which is around easements and Bush Forever further to the west. But what our assessment is that this patch of vegetation, this native vegetation, has value, even though the proponent has indicated in their assessments it doesn't have value. That's been backed up by the Department of Biodiversity and Conservation and Attractions and the Environment Protection Authority. And our view and our assessment is that this needs to be considered as a standalone piece. It shouldn't be relying on the open space of the surrounds to meet its obligations, and therefore that open space be provided within the development of this area as part of the structure plan to not only provide for the public open space provision that's required, and also to, retain that native vegetation, which we believe to be of value, even though it hasn't got the federal protections.
Anything further? Someone like to move that way? Move, Deputy Mayor. Seconded, Councillor Wood. Would either councillor like to speak? Would anyone like to speak against? I'll put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 17.2. Um, 17.2 Amendment 164 to Local Planning Scheme Number 2. Is there any additional information? Council, have any questions in relation to this item? No questions? Someone like to move that way? Moved, Councillor Kearney, seconded. Councillor Brown. Would either councillor like to speak? Anyone want to speak against? Put to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. 17.3. Amendment 1 to lots 503 and 504 Tamblin Place, and lots 505 and 507 and 900 Johnson Road, Wellard, local structure plan. Is there any additional information? Councillors have any questions? Councillor Sargent.
Could you please give clarity to what the lot size for R40 will be in the if the amendment gets passed?
Through you, Your Worship, it's around the 280 square metres in terms of a lot size. That's the average, but it can range between 225 to 300.
Any other questions? Someone like to move that way? Move, Deputy Mayor, second, Councillor Kearney. Either councillor like to speak? Anyone speak against? Put to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.1, quarterly performance report. Any additional information? Councillors have any questions? Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just an item or outcome for 4.1, investigate Bertram Centre urban design. It's noted as behind schedule. And I think it mentions Curtin University were again unable to obtain student numbers to commence this project. City officers are looking for other partners to deliver this project. Could the city speak to this item and kind of what the other potential partners would be? And if there's no ideal outcome there, is that something that can be delivered in-house?
Through you, Your Worship, so we tried on multiple occasions to work with Curtin University through the last update that this report reflects is an April program that we were looking at. They couldn't get the numbers. It was intended with this piece of work to bring some new, fresh ideas through some students, third, fourth year master students even, to undertake a more lateral assessment of the urban design of Bertram and bring that sort of perspective into the space before we go into further detail. That hasn't occurred. We have now turned to the University of Western Australia and they have a particular design review unit within the actual university. Had conversations with the key professor there just the other week. There may be an opportunity to partner with them, but we may need more funds to do that because they do a consulting, they provide a consulting service to undertake that piece of work. We're still exploring it, but in terms of the latter part of that question, for us to do that in-house, we're not urban. We don't have urban designers in-house. We can do a planning exercise and put forward some ideas, but it really does need an urban design lens to be able to look at how the public realm sits with the private spaces that exist in the Bertram Centre together with the public open space and try and, I guess, look at those opportunities of improving the connection, improving the traffic flow, make it more walkable. There's lots of elements to it. So we just wanted to start with something a bit more creative, but we're not getting very far. So I'm still confident that we might be able to get something through UWA, but we may need to request some additional funds through our mid-year review. Just flagging.
Perhaps just a follow-up. Is there any rough timeline you can give from there would be certainty around the UWA pathway?
Well, subject to the funding, so we won't be able to know until after mid-year review. At this stage, the lens that they may look at it is more of a modelling climate impact lens as well, which is quite, I think, for the city now that we've adopted a sustainability framework, that's an exciting perspective that we didn't look at originally when we were looking at this project. So that to me is a logical addition to include in that urban design assessment. So really we need the funds to be able to do that, and until we get the approval by council we can't firm that up. I think they would be able to do it subject to funds.
And just a follow-up, maybe partly out of curiosity, is it typical to partner with universities for this kind of thing? Is there examples of where the City of Kwinana has done this before through a university?
Through your worship, I haven't been involved in it here at Kwinana, but I have been involved in it in other local governments that I've worked for, as a way of, I guess, providing an opportunity for design students in their later years to explore real life case studies which provides them with that real life exercise, but also provides the city with really lateral, uninhibited views. It doesn't mean that that's the work, and then we go from, use that piece of work and that's how we base our decisions. It would be a starting point from which we then get more detailed piece of work undertaken. But it was a way of trying to do that partnership, create that link with those universities, and do something a little bit differently.
Cool. Thank you. Looking forward to the update.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Are the officers able to provide an update on 4.2 in relation to the CCTV strategy and where they're at? Because there's a report being presented to the executive as indicated. Just wanted to see whether that's on track and if there's where we're at with the update and the upgrades and revision of our current network.
That's me again. Through you, Your Worship. Our CCTV strategy is at its final stage of completion. We're hoping to schedule it in for the executive leadership team meetings before the end of this month. So we haven't locked it in just yet, just need some final changes. However, that will be brought to ELT and then we'll be bringing it before council. It is a high-level strategy around some of our opportunities and gaps in terms of not just where we position and the cost to providing the CCTV to our facilities as we grow, but also how what software we're using. So it's the tech side as well as the actual physical provision of CCTV, the CCTV network. So it's been quite a partnership between our essential services area as well as our IT and community safety parts of the city.
Yeah, thanks very much for the update. There's part of the community safety initiative that there is interest in the CCTV network, and we get regular queries in regards to it. But it's just to provide that regular update. We haven't had one for a while, so thank you very much for that.
Any other questions? Councillor Sargent?
Sorry, Councillor Kenny. Thank you, Mayor Feasy. What page am I looking towards? On page 380 of the agenda, regarding the review of the place plans, officers have stated that you currently have 3 in implementation. Can you please speak to, is it something that once you empower the local community, do you then move to another suburb within Kwinana to create a place plan, and how that process works going forwards?
Through you, Your Worship, the place plans were implemented in 2020, August 2020, and we're coming up to a phase now where we'll be reporting back on the successes of the place plans. As part of the next stage, we'll then be reviewing feedback from the market survey, also recent community engagement, say with the council plan and other engagements, to determine if we continue in the suburbs we're in or if we should be reprioritising. So that will involve a councillor workshop as well to look at where we should be focusing our place priorities in the future.
Councillor Kearney, you had a question?
Yeah, going back 4.3 on that one, the access and inclusion, they made changes at the Aquatic Centre. Could you just explain what those changes were?
Yep, through you, Your Worship. Changes were around the accessibility in the hydro pool area. So we didn't have any railing in the hydro pool accessible change room. So there's been additional railing included in there so that people with access needs have got support around using the toilets.
Thank you. Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. On page 378, you have 3.2, update and implement the bike and walk path, and it talks about new footpaths are identified Could you please speak to a lot of ratepayers contact me regarding the Casuarina Maori Park to Costco connection and their concern about having a proper footpath being in there? Is that something that's scheduled to come forwards?
Through you, Your Worship, it is a question that has been raised a number of times, and initially in response to that question, a working group was put together with councillors, that community, our local Member of Parliament and Main Roads to work through some solution, and recognise that anything that council may do would be very temporary and would simply be a waste of money because it'll get removed. It's difficult to put it onto the ultimate alignment because it requires land acquisition, and that when Main Roads dual Thomas Road, they will construct a full dual use cycle path, standard path through there. So the agreement reached with the community at the time with the local member and Main Roads was to widen Thomas Road with 1.5 to 2 metre shoulders and install street lighting and reduce the speed limit. And that is to provide the cycling and pedestrian access. And at the time, Costco didn't exist, but it was from Maori Park Drive all the way through to the train station. So at this stage, we've got no additional plans. We will flag it in our bike and walk plan when it's next updated, but along the same lines that ultimately, as Thomas Road gets upgraded, that path will get extended.
Has that been committed? I believe it's been committed and funded to actually construct that. It's just a case of state government starting to do that. Are you aware of that?
Not that I'm aware of, no. But I'll follow that up.
Councillor Sargent?
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. Just to follow up on that, when the Costco works have been done, I may be mistaken, but what you had done with the shoulder widening, is that still accurate where they've put the new sort of roads coming in and there's now the sort of big edges? Is there still that sort of transfer?
It's actually more. There's more space there now than there was before because they've actually dualled the road all the way to Costco. So what Mr. Elkins was talking about was was single lane, but they actually extended the shoulders on the side of Thomas Road. They also reduced the traffic speed. Was the other thing that happened as a result of that process. So the area around Costco, that's actually a lot bigger than what it was, and as you note, there is sections of footpath to nowhere, but I mean I believe that it's probably still safer to get from the train station, cutting through the Costco development and taking Orton Road through to Maori Park. So I guess it is a little safer than it was as somewhat of a compromise position, but certainly once they dual the rest of Thomas Road, that path will go in. Any other questions? Councillor Wood?
I just, there's a part of the statement saying review of parks upgrade strategy that says rationalise the provision of public open space. Could you give me a definition of what that means?
Through you, Your Worship. So the parks upgrade strategy is it looks at the entire city, but really leans towards the older areas of Kwinana because not all the older areas were built to the same standard. So we talked earlier about 300 is actually a 400 metre catchment, or we talk about a walkable catchment to a local park. So we've gone through an exercise to identify the proximity of housing to local parks and then the provision of infrastructure, swings, seats, barbecues, that type of thing, in each park within those catchments and identified deficiencies in land and identified deficiencies in provision of recreational facilities like playgrounds. So the upgrade strategy then puts together a approach to addressing those deficiencies over time.
Thank you. I have another question too. With community champions, what processes does the council put in to try to get an even spread of people from different suburbs rather than having it skewed one way or another?
Through you, Your Worship, the Community Champions Group commenced a month ago, and people could nominate on Love My Kwinana. So we've accepted all nominations for the Community Champions Group, and it will be reviewed annually where community members can re-nominate. if someone is interested in participating, we've got a really proactive community member who wants to join the group. We'd definitely be very open to conversations to have people join. We don't look at suburbs as such because we want to have very proactive community members who can get out and talk about our engagement with the wider community as well. So we definitely advocate for anyone else coming onto the program and joining the group, but we don't really specifically look at suburbs at this stage.
So it's, even though you have your group, you're quite willing to accept new people at any time?
Absolutely.
Any other questions? No, would someone like to move that way? Move Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Sargent. Either councillors wish to speak? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. I just want to say to the city officers that have worked on this document, thank you for the high level of understanding. It's a fantastic document that has a lot of information on a lot of different, I guess, balls that you have up in the air at the moment and how you are progressing. And the transparency and the accountability that this document shows should be highly commended. So thank you for your work.
Would anyone like to speak against? Put it to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. Item 18.2, Monthly Financial Report, July 2024. Any additional information? No? Councillor, have any questions? Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasy. On page, was it 413? I feel like yes, 413. Sorry, I'm just scrolling across. There's a reference to the in the reserves. There were 3 reserves that have a starting balance of 0, and I just was wondering if you could give some clarity or scope. The Councillor Initiative Reserve, the Election Expense Reserve, and the Valuation Expense Reserve. Please.
I'll just wait till I can catch up with the council initiative reserve. So the other 2 reserves are new reserves this year. So the valuation and council election reserve, and the intent of those 2 reserves is to flatten out expenditure, because the elections are on a 2-year cycle, the valuations are on a 3-year cycle. So we get a peak and trough happening. So the reserve flatten that out. So new reserves start at 0, and during the year we'll transfer funds into that. I believe that will happen after the audit. So whether that's in the next couple of months or in the new calendar year, you'll see it happen, but it will happen through the year. You managed to find that other one? We'll just have to find that other one so I can see.
What page it's on?
Sorry, they're all on page 413. The second long blue line, the 3 that are above that.
I can't read it either.
Very professional description.
I will have to get back on that particular one.
Is that 413?
So, yeah. So 413, if you see the black heading that says subtotal municipal reserves, and above that, those 3 lines there.
Oh, okay.
Through you, Mayor. I'll have to get back. I'll take that one on notice.
So, it's there. So that it should have an opening balance of about 450,
Something like that.
think. So there's obviously
Yeah, that's all I thought. Is I was of the understanding that there was a councillor initiative reserve and that it said it was 0, and whether we had historically already done something. So it possibly could be a typo. We'll leave that on notice and find out.
yeah, I guess if certainly if we could, because there should be about 450 in there, and also there's an amount budgeted, which there shouldn't be an amount budgeted, because it's a reserve with no budget attached.
That'll be the transfer in that
Oh, okay. For the tap at Homestead Park, probably. Okay. Take it on notice, and we'll provide that information. Any other questions? Someone like to move that way? Move, Deputy Mayor. Second to Councillor Sargent. Either councillor wish to speak? Anyone speak against? Put to the vote. All in favour? Against? Carried. There is nothing on 19. Nothing on 20. Is there any late or urgent business? Reports of elected members. Deputy Mayor. Councillor Brown.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. That's a quick one from me today. So on last Sunday, I attended on behalf of Mayor Peter Feasey the Medina Residents Group AGM. So it's been a busy year, as per usual, for the Medina Residents Group. They noted events and activities such as the Pace Road shop development, the hosting the Meet the Candidates event on the 5th of October, the Medina Community Festival on the 15th of October, a variety of community painting initiatives, Medina Meets events, the Clean Up Australia Day on 3rd of March event, the Neighbourhood Day on 24th of March, and the ever-famous Medina Heritage Walk on the 19th of May. So I just want to say huge congratulations to the Medina Residents Group for another successful year, and they wanted me to pass on their thanks to the City of Kwinana for the ongoing support they provided. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Kearney.
Nothing for me, thank you.
Councillor Sargent.
Thank you, Mayor Feasey. Okay, I wrote this one down, so I'm just going to read and make sure that I eloquently present this. Okay, since the last council meeting, I have performed all duties required of me, but I would like to bring to attention that this week is Are You OK Week. With Are You OK Day being tomorrow. Are You OK is designed to bring awareness of how a conversation can save a life. Suicide has devastating trauma effects on the family and loved ones left behind. This is something I have lived experience, as my grandfather took his life before I was born, and the lifelong effects it had on my grandmother, mum, and her siblings was unmeasurable. So please, Kwinana, take the time to ask, are you okay? Listen to what is said, encourage action to talk to their trusted health professionals, or use one of the many great phone line services that are listed on the Are You OK website. And finally, take the time to check back in, and you may have started a conversation that saved a life. If you're worried about someone and you're not sure how to help, the phone line services are a fantastic way to start. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sargent. Councillor Wood.
Performed all those duties required of me, thank you.
Answers to questions. There are nil. Mayoral announcements. I will report on the trip to America at the next meeting. There are no confidential items. I'll declare the meeting closed at 6:19. Thank you for your attendance.